What's up, grinders? Welcome to the afternoon grind here on Roto Grinders. It was a long all-star break. Very happy to be back in the DFS swing of things here. We had breaking news several hours ago. Draft cheats, Radiator, his whole house. No heat in his whole house. So last second standby. Dan back, DB730. Dan, always great to do a show with you.
Okay, let's start that again. Introduce me again, please.
Dan Bach.
Thank you. I was going to say.
Why do I always? That's like the second time I've done that.
My goodness.
I butcher you left and right.
You listen to me every day on the podcast.
You know what it is? It's I listen to Gaby. I listen to Gaby and Dean all the time now on the podcast. Now you're not on there all the time. You're busy.
Yeah. Well, I'm still on there a lot, but yes, Dan Bach. Great to be here. Doing a little double duty today. Got XM at 6. But it's not a bad day to do it because, there's just so much stuff to talk about today.
So while NBA was on break, I just want to touch on these real quick. DraftKings, if you guys were living under a rock, a millionaire maker for PGA. Dan, real quick, what's your thoughts on that? Just a huge event for PGA.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's going to bring people in, and I think it's good crossover as well. People can win tickets playing their NBA games, and again, it's 1 week for golf. You don't have to be a golf nerd to, have a chance in that tournament. Run a couple trains over the next couple months, maybe win 5-10 tickets, and who knows? You might have $1 million sweat on a Sunday for the Masters. There are worse things than that. So I'm all for it. I think it's a good tournament, and hopefully it'll bring some new people over. So
yeah, I haven't played any fantasy golf since it's whether it was on Draft Street, on DraftKings, and this is only $20. I can definitely see myself throwing a few entries in there for sure, and I'm gonna have no clue what I'm doing for sure.
Yeah, well, again, you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer in one of these tournaments. You just just find guys who make the cut, and then hopefully things break your way on Sunday. There you go. That's what you do.
So in chat, a couple things. Apparently, I'm going to be fired after the show, and they say Draft Cheat has all grown up now. So apparently, you're a good substitute for him.
Well, Draft Cheat, it's only fitting that his Radiator would be what went out. I mean, that's really the star of the show when he comes on here anyway, is the Radiator behind him. And we don't see it as much as we used to, since we've got the nice high-tech producers and whatnot, being able to crop stuff out. But hopefully he'll be back in this chair next week doing his thing.
So Dan Bach, let's get into the games here. Real quick, I just saw someone posted in chat. Jarrett Jack is ruled out for today, so that might change some things up with Deron Williams being in there today. But we'll get to that game. With all these games in here, a lot of trades. Let's cut the chit-chat and get right into the games here. Pelicans at Magic is our first game of the night. It's a 192 over-under. Pelicans only favored by 5 on the road here. No Ryan Anderson, not that that really matters. But me and you were talking a little bit before the show on Anthony Davis. Do you want to play him, or do you want to pay up for a guy like James Harden? It's a different position, but those are kind of the top 2 targets on my board tonight.
I think the reason to play Davis over Harden tonight is positional scarcity. When you look at shooting guard tonight, you've got a guy in Dwayne Wade without Chris Bosh in that lineup. You've got Eric Bledsoe without Dragic and without Isaiah Thomas tonight, so he's going to be the main focal point of that offense. You've got 2 other options there who are a good bit cheaper, $2,000 to $3,000 cheaper. And then when you look at power forward, your downgrades from Davis are okay, but I don't know. I think I prefer those other guys at shooting guard a bit better. And the matchup for me for Davis is just absolutely tremendous. I mean, Orlando is a team who, he's eaten up in the past and just doesn't really defend big men all that well. I mean, I could see him easily having a 50, possibly 60 fantasy point night tonight. I don't want to say easily on a 60-point night, but 50 seems like a very reasonable number for him. And on a day like today, though, there's going to be so much value out there. You could get both guys in if you really want.
Yeah, who'd the Pelicans trade for? Norris Cole, I believe. He's not going to be in this game at all. So does that put you on a guy like Tyreek Evans at all? Eric Gordon? These guys are still going to see a lot of usage tonight before Norris Cole kind of takes over the point guard spot. Do you have any interest there, or is it just Anthony Davis for you on the Pelicans?
I got a little bit in Tyreek Evans, but again, it kind of goes down to the position. Do you like him better than Wade tonight for 400 more? Not really. Do you like him as much as Bledsoe for 300 less? Not really. I think he's a tournament play and maybe a guy who you put on a team where you don't have Anthony Davis, because I'm not really a big fan of playing both of these guys. I think that's in the same lineup. If you want to kind of split it up, if you're playing multiple teams in tournament lineups, I can get behind that. But I think just the way everything breaks tonight, I don't expect to have a lot of Tyreek Evans. I don't think he's going to be very highly owned tonight for that reason because of the guys around him.
Everyone's going to be on Eric Bledsoe tonight, which we'll get to in a minute, which means the guys right around him, guys like Tyreek Evans, Jimmy Butler, you got Wade, Monta Ellis, who had a good game against James Harden last time out. All those guys are going to be just so under-owned because everyone's going to be on Bledsoe. I think Tyreek makes a pretty good tournament play tonight. On the other side here, let's talk the Magic here. If you got to pick one player from the Magic tonight that you want to play, Tobias Harris, he's questionable. I think he's going to play. Is he the guy you want in there if he's playing, or is it a guy like Oladipo?
It's Harris for me. I mean, you looked at his 2 games before the injury, before the All-Star break. He was at, or 3 games. He had 34 or 31 fantasy points, 47 and 44. So that's definitely making value on 6,200. And there wasn't really injuries or a different team that he's walking into here today. And yeah, one of those did come against the Lakers, 47 fantasy points, but 31 against Chicago and 44 against San Antonio is not too bad. So, he's gonna. I mean, I don't think New Orleans is a great defensive team, but I think they're okay. But the price tag at 6,200, I'm a fan of it. He and like Wiggins, who are a little bit more, is a pretty tough choice for me today. Those are the 2 guys in the mid-tier 6K range on FanDuel that I'm looking at. Right now, I'll give a slight edge to Harris, but it's really slight.
Those minutes for Harris, 39, 45, 38, 41. Yeah. Those are huge minutes. If he's in there, so he was expected to play. He got downgraded to questionable earlier today. I think he's still going to play. If he doesn't, are you going to target a guy like Oladipo, Peyton, Vucevic, or are you just kind of avoiding this and taking value plays elsewhere?
I'm not really looking at anybody else here on Orlando, to be honest with you. I think that there's better options today.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. So much value out there. Stars and Scrubs going to be very popular. 2 stars and a balanced lineup very popular tonight. So I'm just not too sold on any of these Magic players outside of Tobias Harris tonight. Next game, Indiana at Philadelphia, 184 over under. Pacers 8-point favorites on the road here. Dan. So MCW, he's gone. KJ McDaniels, he's gone. You got Frazier as the point guard. Robert Covington's going to get all the shots he can get. Hollis Thompson's probably going to get a couple extra, minutes, but he did everyone dirty before the break there. Are you targeting anyone outside of Robert Covington III tonight? Maybe a guy like Memba Mute, or is it just RC3 for you?
I think Covington is a great play today. He's just a little expensive. I mean, you look at him at 6,600 on FanDuel tonight. I mean, you can go 400 more and get Draymond Green. Same thing kind of with like Chris Middleton. I kind of like him tonight, but the price isn't super cheap. So I don't know. I mean, I think Memba Mute is actually a better play when you break down the price per point you're going to get from him. You break down the usage numbers when you have no MCW out there, you've got no Tony Roten out there, and Memba Mute is right there with Covington in terms of his usage on that team, and you're getting him at a significant discount. Now, I don't think you might have the upside of a Covington, but for the savings you're getting, I think I like him a little bit more. And I'm not ready to write off Tim Frazier yet. I mean, they don't have anybody else to go to at point guard. I mean, the bottom line is he's going to play 36 to 40 minutes here tonight, and he's just a smidgen above min salary on FanDuel. Now, in DraftKings, I think you can safely ignore him. He's over 4K on that site. But, again, can he get you 20 to 25 fantasy points tonight? I believe he can, even against Indiana. I mean, this is a game which the line looks a little closer than I expected at 8 points, considering, Philadelphia is a team that doesn't have much of anything offensively. It's going to be a slower game. Both teams pretty good defensively, but I don't hate it. I mean, I'm wondering for you, do you like him better or worse than, say, McCallum out there with Sacramento, who's going to draw a start?
I mean, I like give me Bayless if he starts in there instead of
Well, I
both of
mean, let's
those
say you want
guys.
to punt 2 point guards tonight, which isn't a bad idea.
Um, guess I'd take. I haven't really dug too much into McCollum yet. I got to look into that. Frazier, just a guy. The minutes are there, but I would be more apt to use a guy like Covington, Emba Mute, like you brought up. He's playing a ton of minutes and actually, giving you some relevant fantasy points. I'd much rather play him than take a shot on Frazier tonight. Just not that interested in Frazier.
Yeah, again, I think it's a FanDuel only play, and I think it comes down to minutes and, can he make value on min salary tonight? I think he can, so I'm not against him.
So everyone in chat's commenting on how good we're looking because the stream we have going here. So we're on. There is a giant ice storm over in RotoGrinders headquarters in Nashville. So we are on Google Hangouts today instead of the normal production. So if that makes us look better, maybe we'll be doing all the shows on Hangouts, Dan.
I don't know. I like the little snazzy graphics and everything, but of course the show looks better when I'm on it. That's natural.
Absolutely.
Right? And what acronym did you use for me? Like bald guy?
So there's the HBI. You know what an HBIC is?
What's that?
That's the head bitch in charge.
Okay.
So now you're the HBGIC, the head bald guy in charge.
Okay. I was going to say, if you're calling me a bitch, we're going to have a problem here, Devine.
So you're the head bald guy in charge.
Okay. Let's keep going. We got a lot of games.
Indiana here. I see a couple people on Hill tonight and on West tonight. Philadelphia has actually been pretty good defensively against big guys. I can see some merit in using West. Just not a guy I'm really targeting tonight. George Hill, I think, should have a fine night. He should just eat up Frazier tonight on both ends of the court, especially on the turnovers. Really good defensively. Frazier loves to turn the ball over. I think Hill could be in for a very nice night tonight.
I could definitely get behind Hill at 5,500 tonight on FanDuel. West, a little rich for my blood at 6,900 for maybe the reasons you mentioned. But I like Hill. I mean, he's somebody who is an offensive-minded point guard on that team, and they don't have a lot of guys who can create their own shots, and he does that. And, you read the comments of Frank Vogel, and that's what they want him to do. So the question is he going to play over 30 minutes now? You have to think.
They've said he's going to be 28 to 32 minutes basically here on out. I read about that over the break here. There's nothing, he's not going to be playing 35 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if a game scenario plays itself out where they need him to, that he will. But this might not be it against Philadelphia. But I don't mind him for the price point.
C.J. Miles, I see some people on him today. A couple articles on him. I'm just not interested in him. Better value out there for me tonight. Roy Hibbert too. Some of those guys are coming back up front. I just have no interest in Roy Hibbert either.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Toronto and Atlanta is our next game. 205 over under. Atlanta 5-point favorites at home. I always talk with DC. Atlanta, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get with them. There's no value, but you can pretty much lock in, Teague, Millsap, and Horford in for, exactly what you think out of them. If they're the last spot on your board, I don't really mind them tonight if you need a player exactly at what their price is. But I'm going to be honest. I'm not really targeting any of these guys. They're just too expensive when there's so much value out there tonight.
Yeah, I think they make better tournament plays. I think a guy like Millsap at under 8K, he's got big upside. We've seen him at 50 fantasy point nights before. He's also a very consistent guy. The last few games haven't been great, but the thing about you hit up on it with Atlanta. Same with Teague. He's a guy who from time to time can break out for a 40-burger. But the nice thing about those guys is nobody's going to have exposure to them. But Damari Carroll's one guy who's been playing really well, is a pretty cheap price here tonight. And this is a sneaky high totaled game. 209, I think that puts it in the top 5 highest totals of the evening. And I don't necessarily think a lot of people are going to be excited and ready to load up on players in this matchup. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised. The line is what it is with Atlanta, being well.
I think you said 209. It's at 205.
So 209. Okay, still 205. That's still in the upper tier of things here. So again, I think they make better tournament plays. There's nobody I'm looking for in this game that I would play in my cash.
On the other side here in Toronto, we got the neck tat kind of. He did us all dirty before the break here. Not sure I'm going to go back there tonight with all the other value out there. But Kyle Lowry, he was a guy who I've talked to DC a lot on this show. I thought he was just really tired from having to carry the team at the beginning of the season. Had himself a nice little break here. Is he a guy you can get behind in tournaments now that this price is coming down at all? Or are you just kind of avoiding him? And do you think he can get above this 30-point threshold? He just hasn't been able to break lately.
Potentially. I mean, this is a game that is probably going to be competitive. They're going to need him to play well to beat this team. So for that reason, yes. I don't have him right now as it stands. I just think I'd rather kind of go up a little bit more to a Wall or a Curry, or go down more to a George Hill or one of the punt options. So just kind of roster makeup for me. I don't have a lot of Kyle Lowry. The neck tap, I don't mind here tonight. I think that enough people will be off of him because, like you said,
no one's going to be using him.
Exactly. They did him dirty, and you look at small forward, and he's at 3,900. Well, here's the question. Could he outscore, say, Gerald Green, who's 3,900? Absolutely. I think he could, and I think his ownership will probably be half of what we see for Gerald Green tonight, especially if it comes out that Green is going to start. So, the reason he struggled last game is he got in foul trouble. He got picked up 2 quick fouls. The game before that, played 30 minutes, had a real solid day. So I don't think he's a bad small forward punt option tonight. And I'm not going to write off DeMar DeRozan either, still at under 7K at shooting guard. I mean, his scoring is definitely picked up. He's been over 30 fantasy points 3 straight games. So if you, again, want to kind of go against the grain, away from Bledsoe and Wade and Harden, DeRozan's a guy to look at.
Yeah, pair up DeRozan with maybe a guy like Oladipo, or pair him up with one of Harden or Bledsoe. I think it's going to be interesting. A tandem I'm really looking at: James Harden paired with Eric Bledsoe, and you basically
you and everyone else.
You can basically for my cash games tonight, it's kind of where I'm going. You can basically lock in at shooting guard. The 2 highest expected production guys out of that, and you could theoretically see 110 fantasy points out of those 2 guys tonight combined.
Yeah.
Let's go real quick on Toronto. Any part of the front court?
No.
Patterson, Johnson. No, I want nothing.
No.
Nothing to do with that either.
No.
Chicago at Detroit. We got a 193 over under. 6-point favorites are the Bulls on the road. Let's talk Detroit here real quick. They shipped everybody out of town, it seemed, at the trade deadline. So today we're looking at guys like Spencer Dinwiddie. Who is this guy, Dan? Can you use him? He's very cheap across the industry. He's going to be starting tonight. He's going to be splitting time at point guard with Lucas. I also expect Meeks to kind of handle the ball a little bit more tonight, maybe get a few minutes of point guard too. All aboard the Dinwiddie death train?
I wouldn't say all aboard, but I might hop on for a stop or 2 along the way. Because here's the thing about Dinwiddie. First off, he was a pretty good player at Colorado. Drafted him this past year. He's been on the team all year long. Lucas, I think they just signed from China, so he was not somebody who's been fully integrated into what Detroit has been doing. And if you read Van Gundy's quotes about Dinwiddie saying he's coming off 2 of his best practices. And he's somebody that, they don't know what they have really game situation in Spencer Dinwiddie. John Lucas has been in this league many times over, and he was playing in China this past year. Again, I don't think they're going to give him all that many minutes. I think they're going to mainly fall on Dinwiddie. The interesting thing on FanDuel, he falls in as a shooting guard, not a point guard. So if you wanted to go value spot there, he might be somebody to consider. Again, I wouldn't go all in. I think in cash games it makes it a little bit risky to do that. I'd rather punt with a guy like at least Frazier. I kind of know what I'm going to get with him over Dinwiddie, who is still relative unknown. But again, at min salary, what does he really need to make value? And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Not much. And DJ Augustine, he played an absolute boatload of minutes. So until Reggie Jackson gets to Detroit, this is Dinwiddie's opportunity to prove that he can play. And a lot of times people step up their games when they are given their opportunities. So at min salary, I don't hate it, but let's not push all our chips in on Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, if you take him cheap at shooting guard, I'd probably want to pair him with Bledsoe or Harden to have a guy who can really get a lot of points in there. And that allows you to get a guy like Anthony Davis. Maybe you want John Wall in a point guard. If you go cheap at shooting guard, you can afford those guys. So I think it makes a nice play in tournaments. Not sure I can go there in cash. Let's talk about a couple other Pistons here. Jody Meeks, KCP, any interest in those guys? There's a lot of extra minutes, a lot of extra shots with DJ Augustine out of the lineup. And Meeks is a guy I expect to kind of take some of those shots tonight.
I'm not a Meeks guy. Never have been. I mean, for me, he's somebody who's more of a spot-up shooter, not a guy who.
Would you rather take him for 400 more or Dinwiddie tonight? I mean, you know what you're getting out of Meeks.
No, you don't though. I mean, what are you going to get? 11 fantasy points or 31
30.
fantasy points? Like, I don't think his role changes that much. He might play a little bit more point guard, but even if he does, I don't necessarily know if that's a huge advantage to him. He's more of a spot-up type shooter, and I don't like him very much because I think you know what you get with him. I think KCP is the guy who probably gets the biggest jump, but you got to pay $5K for him on FanDuel, and I'm not sure I want to do that. So I've seen people write up Jody Meeks. Gaby's probably going to just go nuts and jizz all over the place for Jody Meeks, but I'm not going to be that guy tonight, so you got to wait till 4:30 for that.
Meeks won him a lot of money not too long ago.
Yeah, but he's lost people a lot of money too when he had 5 fantasy points, 10 fantasy points, 11 fantasy points. So I'm just not sold on him as a great even ball handler. I mean, he was. I don't know. He's not somebody I'm interested in, really.
All right.
That could be your Dan Pan of the night, though. The way I just talked about him, that has Dan Pan written all over it, by the way.
Let's talk about Greg Monroe, a guy who's, just based on his price, it's actually come down on FanDuel a little bit to 7,700. Makes him a very interesting play tonight. You can get him in your lineup, pair him with a guy like Josh Smith or Jason Smith. And have a very good, cheap, power forward combo without having to spend up for Anthony Davis tonight. Are you on board Greg Monroe against Chicago, who just isn't the great interior defense everyone used to think they were?
Let's see. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know. I was trying to find an adjective, and I guess I picked the wrong one last time, fellas. My bad. Let's see. Power forward wise, I don't mind Monroe. I think he's one of the few safe guys left out there at power forward tonight.
Power forward is not a it's a 13-game slate. Everyone's playing all the trades, and power forward is not a very nice position tonight.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's the problem. I look at it. It's like you got to go up for Davis, which I'm okay with, and you got Powell and Aldridge, who are expensive, and then you're in the Love, Millsap, Duncan, Monroe range, and I probably would say Monroe is your safest bet out of those 4 guys. So if you're looking for a guy in that price range, I think he's the guy you want. Like him better than Duncan, Millsap, or Love.
Al says your pillows are exquisite, Dan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any interest in Caron Butler? He's going to be drawing the start. Not sure I can go there. Do you have any interest on him? He's very cheap. Almost.
He's going to. Yeah, he's going to start tonight. I'm going to make a proclamation, and I don't do this often, but McJester will have exposure to Caron Butler tonight. He loves Caron Butler, so take it for what it is. I probably won't right now, just the way things are setting up. I mean, he is a bit more of a proven player. Give him some minutes and potentially could be a guy to look at, but as it stands at the moment, really no Caron Butler for me tonight. But there's some credence to it, I think. I mean, again, there's all these min salary guys. It doesn't take much to make value. It's just trying to get the right ones. I mean, you could take a shot in the dark in a tournament on them.
Yeah, and everyone at small forward, Gerald Green is going to be starting tonight, by the way. That came out. So everyone's going to be paying just a couple bucks more for Gerald Green, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And any starter in the NBA, if he's going to play 25 or 30 minutes, at min price, it doesn't take much for him to, get 20 to 25 fantasy points, and who knows if he got hot shooting, there could be some upside. Be contrarian, get a lower-owned player. I don't really mind Caron Butler in a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you could do worse. I mean, if you really believe Meeks is going to play a lot of point guard, that's probably just going to mean a few more minutes for him at some shooting guard spot. I mean, you took Singler out of the equation. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's credence to it.
Let's talk Chicago here. I think pretty much all 4 of the main starters here, Rose, Butler, Powell, and Noah. You can start any 4 of those guys with confidence tonight, but Rose is the guy I'm targeting. He's cheap on FanDuel, 7,000. He's kind of in no man's land there if you're looking for a mid-tier point guard that can really have 40-plus fantasy point upside. going up against Dinwiddie and Jody Meeks. And I forgot the other guy that we were just talking about for Detroit. But there's no one that can guard him on defense tonight. He's shooting the ball great. Do you like Derrick Rose as much as I do? He's a guy I'm targeting and just in cash games and in tournaments tonight.
Not really. I mean, I look at him, and yeah, he had 2 great games against Cleveland and Sacramento before the break, but his list of games before then, he, was right around 27 to 30 fantasy points. I mean, that's okay, but maybe in a cash game format.
He's so consistent. He's very, very consistent. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of pencil in 27, and with the upside tonight of going up against, some not very good defenders, playing on a big stage for the first time. Yeah. I really like Derrick Rose to have a good game tonight.
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, I think a lot of it, going to come down to whether or not he turns the ball over. I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get from him night to night. I don't think Rose is going to win you many tournaments, personally, but he's not my favorite point guard of the night. Let's just put it that way.
Anyone else on Chicago? Obviously, Pau Gasol, I think, is a good play. Butler, I like. Joakim Noah at center. If you want to differentiate yourself in a tournament, at center tonight, there's easily 3 top targets in Cousins, Whiteside, and Gobert tonight. Guys like Noah, Lopez, and Pekovic, I think, are going to go really low-owned. Do you have any interest in Noah against a very weak interior defense for Detroit?
Yeah, I got no problem with him in a tournament format. I think you're playing with fire, obviously, if you play him in any sort of 50-50 cash game today. But at under 7K, you're right. Differentiator, that's a big part of the game theory that comes into playing daily fantasy, and he's somebody who could easily outperform some of the guys that we talked about there that not a lot of people are going to be on. So the matchup fits it. I think I'd rather, kind of differentiate with him than, Gasol necessarily for the price you got to pay on Gasol. So, if there's another bull I'm looking at, it's probably him.
Who do you think is going to be the highest owned center on FanDuel in the Slam tonight? Is it going to be Gobert? Is it going to be Whiteside? It's kind of tough to pay for Cousins, but I think a lot of people are going to be on him tonight. If you ask me, Gobert at his price for sure is easily going to be the highest owned center.
Yeah, I think it's Gobert for sure. I don't think it's even going to be that close. I mean, Whiteside's a good play here, and we'll talk about that. I mean, that's pretty much our next game if we want to get into that. Going against New York, but the price a little bit higher, and his last game against New York was not particularly great, and I know some people could be a little bit weary of that. So yeah, I think Gobert I think he'll be one of the highest owned players on the night.
Yeah, that price was really cheap, but let's roll into the next game here. Miami at Knicks, low over under 181. That's one of the lowest I've seen all season, if not the lowest. Miami 7-point favorites at home, so you got Wade coming back. But you have Bosh out, looking like he's going to be out for the rest of the season here. And there's just nobody on the Knicks that can rebound. And with Bosh out, there's no one left on Miami that can rebound. Whiteside, I mean, if you had to put an over-under on I wonder what the Vegas total is. I haven't looked at it. But if I told you 14.5 rebounds tonight for Whiteside, what would you take?
I would take the over on that one.
So it's the only question with him is if he's going to get in foul trouble. He did get in foul trouble in that last game against New York. If he can stay out of it, what kind of upside does he have in this game? I mean, you got the 20/20 vision. He went to the eye doctor. As Alan Dean say, what's that? The Barbara Walters game, the 20/20 for them. What kind of upside can Whiteside see in this game, even though it does have a low over-under?
Real quick, I'm about to look at the player props here. Oh man, that game's not showing up. So I guess we will just skip that part of the show. For me, you're right. It's all about whether or not he can stay out of foul trouble. It's hard to predict, but if he gets you over 30 minutes, I mean, he's almost a lock to get you mid-30s, maybe 40 fantasy points. And the matchup here screams, a Whiteside's going to go with a double-double here. I mean, New York doesn't really have anybody down low who can, match his athleticism that he brings to the table, and I'm fine with him. I mean, let's put it this way. If I throw 10 teams, and I think I probably will tonight in the Slam on FanDuel, I would say at minimum 3 of those teams will have Whiteside at center. I could see myself going 3, 3 with Gobert, 2 with Cousins, and then maybe 1 more with a Noah or an outsider. So
sounds like you have this all planned out already, Dan.
No, I'm just saying, like, I like him pretty much on par with Gobert. I just think that, especially in a tournament, though, we've seen him have some monster games. If he gets you 6 blocks tonight, I mean, that's just a huge advantage that, a lot of guys, aren't going to obviously give you that level. I don't think Noah, obviously, is going to probably get you 6 blocks in a game, but somebody like Whiteside clearly can. Same with Gobert. So I'm okay. I like him. I think if I had to set his baseline, I think he's probably 32 fantasy points is probably, I don't say quite a floor because foul trouble can make it lower, but if you believe he can stay out of foul trouble, 32 is the floor for me for him.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was thinking, like a 15-15 game, throw in a block or 2, maybe an off chance at an assist or something like that. I think Whiteside's going to have a good game. Very tough, though. If you're in your cash games tonight, let's talk cash games. Would you be targeting him at 7,700 or Gobert? $2,000 difference for Gobert, who's just kind of, he's going to skyrocket into 30 to 35 minutes a game here. How can you not pay 5,700 for Gobert tonight?
I think you have to play Gobert. I mean, when you look at his production when Cantor was not playing, the guy was unbelievable. Now Cantor is out. Put 2 and 2 together, should be a pretty easy decision. Then you throw in the matchup for him, and it's not bad. So I think that for me, Gobert in cash games is probably the way that I would go.
That's what I'm looking at right now too. But I might just switch to Whiteside. Not sure. Gotta run some numbers after the show, Dan. So we'll see how that works. Let's talk Dwayne Wade, Luol Deng.
By the way, points, rebounds, blocks for Gobert tonight, 24.5 over -135 right now.
So that's what do you think then? 27 probably if I had to give you an over-under.
You could have put it at 14 or 10 points, 14 rebounds, and we'll say 4 blocks.
Yeah.
Do the math on that, and that's what you're going to get. That's
I think
worth 5,900 if you ask me.
Yeah, with even higher upside too, because he can just have monster games just like Whiteside. Well, let's talk Wade and Deng here. Deng I like to play when Wade's not in, so I'm personally not on Deng today with Wade in the lineup. Do you have any interest in either of these two guys tonight?
I like Wade for sure. I mean, you look at the usage numbers when you take Bosch out of the equation, and it's massive. It's like 33%, I believe, for him, and I think that he's clearly a great play when healthy. Didn't play this weekend. I mean, his health is always a question mark. He can come up lame during a game, but the total is low. But all Miami totals are low, and it's just a matter of where that scoring is going to come from. And he seems like an ideal candidate for it. So the price is pretty cheap too on FanDuel, below 8K. I can get behind Dwayne Wade. I got quite a few shares of him today.
Yeah, me and DC always say, don't play Dwayne Wade in your cash games because if there's a guy for in-game injury risk, if you had to pick a player in the NBA who's most likely to leave a game right now, it has to be Dwayne Wade, right?
Probably, but it's if you're playing daily fantasy, trying to predict when guys are going to get hurt in game, you will lose money. Don't do that.
So me and him, we've come up with. It's basically 15 to 20% for Dwayne Wade to kind of get hurt in game. So I'm not sure I can use him in cash games, but I think in tournaments tonight, with everyone focusing on Eric Bledsoe, spending up for more for James Harden, and you have a couple cheaper people like the Alphabet, you got Dinwiddie way down there. No one's going to be on Dwayne Wade tonight. If you had to guess his percentage in the slam tonight, is it going to be under 5%, or is it going to be under 5 to 10%?
No, it'll be. I think it's 5 to 10 for sure, Because I mean, Harden is a little bit tougher to get him in if you want to get Anthony Davis at your power forward spot, or if you wanted to play LeBron at small forward. I would be shocked if Wade is below 5%. Shocked. I'll take it because I got him a good bit.
Next game, Phoenix at Minnesota. Very interesting fantasy game here. 207 over under. I believe Phoenix is a 1-point favorite. Very close spread on the road here. Let's talk them real quick. Eric Bledsoe. So there's no Isaiah Thomas. There's no Goran Dragic. you pretty much have to take Eric Bledsoe in cash games tonight just for a block because your opponent's going to have him, and the upside for him is just tremendous tonight.
Yeah, he's amazing when, he's the guy, and he is the guy tonight. I think him and Gerald Green, now that he's starting, are just a 1-2 punch, which is tough not to play because you look at the other players that they bring to the table, guys like P.J. Tucker, Markieff Morris, potentially Marcus Moore. I mean, they're okay offensive players, but they're not great offensive players. And I think that, Bledsoe's going to have his hands on the ball an absolute ton tonight. And you look at the usage numbers, go to that NBAWowie.com, and you take out Isaiah Thomas, you take out Goran Dragic, and the usage for both Green and Bledsoe are enormous. They're both over 33%. So for the price tag you got to pay, I think they're kind of plug-and-plays for your cash games. And even for tournaments, I don't mind them because I think they're going to have big nights.
Anyone else? Can you get behind? I wrote up. What did I write up? P.J. Tucker as a tournament play tonight. I think his he's going to get a couple extra shots there. He's quietly had 4 consecutive usable games before the break there. Any interest in P.J. Tucker now that Gerald Green's in the starting lineup though? I just can't really especially in cash games, can't see myself taking Tucker over Green because the price difference. You just take Green. But in a tournament, to differentiate yourself, paying up a little bit more for Tucker, can you get behind that?
Yeah, I'm okay with Tucker for sure. I mean, he's still going to play. He was playing a lot of minutes before. He's still going to play a lot of minutes after the trade deadline. And he's still a little bit limited offensively, but he's kind of streaky. If that shot gets going for him, he can maybe get you 30 fantasy points or more, or right around that range. I mean, Green's a guy who just not too often do you see him. I'll have to go to Stat. You should go to StatMuse and see what his numbers are as a starter. I'd be curious to see that over the last couple of years because I'm betting it's pretty darn good. I remember last year during a stretch he got the starts and he was just going crazy offensively. So yeah, I mean I think they're fine plays. I mean Tucker I'm okay with.
Chief Keef, Markieff, can you get behind him at all?
Almost by default. I mean, again, there's some minutes out there. I mean, is Len out? Do we have that for sure? Is he not going to play?
I'm expecting Len to play. I believe.
Okay.
He took part in practice Wednesday.
Okay.
Coach anticipates he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, so Len is going to go. They got rid of Plumlee. I mean, they just don't have a lot of. I don't think his role changes pretty much one iota based on the information that kind of took place. I mean, 6,200's a fine price to pay. I mean, it's not too high, not too low. As it stands now, though, I don't suspect I'll have much of him.
Look at this. Someone in chat, Adam Levitan, posted, Gerald Green started 48 games last year, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 3-pointers, a steal at 31 minutes a game.
There you go.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, there you have it.
Let's
and Len is going to start tonight.
Yeah, let's go Minnesota. What's your take on these guys? Georgie Dang, I think he's going to kind of jump back into the talk tonight, get the start at power forward, I'd imagine. But the guy I'm interested in, I want to hear your take. Ricky Rubio is kind of a mid-tier point guard option. The minutes were starting to creep back up before the break. Can you get behind him tonight?
I love Rubio. He's so fun because he almost guaranteed to get you 2 to 3 steals, which is awesome. It's a really nice 2-point category to get those points. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider he's somebody who got triple-double upside, you love it. And 38 fantasy points last game against Golden State. I could see him having a good game. I think he's definitely more obviously always a tournament play over a cash game play, but Zach LaVine, he can dunk, but he can't play basketball particularly well. So Ricky Rubio is going to be in there a lot. And I think, obviously, going over 30 minutes last game, I think the minutes restriction is probably off of him. And, he did score 18 that day. He's not going to do that more often than not, but he's proven to be a little bit better scorer this year than we've seen last year. So I don't mind Rubio, especially in tournaments.
What about Pekovic? He lit up Andrew Bogut and the Warriors, 42 fantasy points against them.
No.
You can't go there tonight. Any interest in Dang then?
No, especially with Len back. He kind of helped their interior a good bit. And I'm not interested in Pekovic here tonight. I mean, with the guys at center, the value you got at center, I mean, if I was going to take a guy in the sixes, I'd take Noah over Pekovic tonight.
Kevin Martin, Andrew Wiggins, Shabazz Muhammad. There's a lot of fantasy, a lot of players that can have big nights here. Any interest in those guys? I'm having a hard time finding room for them with all the value at small forward and shooting guard tonight.
Yeah, it's a high total game, so you want to get exposure. It's just tough to know where to go.
Eric Bledsoe.
Well, on Minnesota's angle, this should be a close game. We talk about stacking games, hoping for overtime. I would say Wiggins most likely gets a little bit of a bump when you take Thad Lewis out of the equation, or Thad Young, excuse me, not Thad Lewis. He's a bad quarterback from Duke. But Wiggins, you take him out of the equation, or Young out of the equation. I think Wiggins gets a bump under 6,500 on FanDuel tonight, and he seems to be the guy that I would want out of Muhammad or Martin. And I don't mind Rubio. I'd say I'd probably like Rubio a little bit more than Wiggins if I was going to kind of take a $6,500 player from Minnesota.
Cleveland at Washington is our next game. 198 over/under. Cleveland 3-point favorites on the road here. There's two guys I want in this game. I want John Wall. I love John Wall's matchup, and I want LeBron James. I really want those guys. But my question is, can you pay for those guys? If you have LeBron, do you want him? Do you want Harden? Do you want Anthony Davis? I think in a tournament, LeBron easily going to be the lowest owned out of those three.
I agree. I definitely think he will be. Washington plays pretty good defense, and that's what you fall into. But I love taking LeBron in competitive games. You pretty much throw out good defenses when you've got guys like LeBron James. Maybe you avoid him when they play a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, but LeBron, a division matchup, or a conference. I don't know if they're in the same division, same conference matchup. I think that he is in a great spot tonight. I think he'll be way under-owned compared to those other guys you mentioned. And all in all, small forward, you look at it, at 10-6, it's not a killer price to have to pay for him. And there's a big drop-off, salary-wise below him. You got Gordon Hayward against Portland, and then Rudy Gay at 7,200, and then pretty much everything else is, you've got, middle-tier guys. So there's some reason to look to LeBron. Again, I think I'll probably have him on 2 of 10 FanDuel teams tonight in the slam. Maybe 3.
John Wall, now the Cavaliers, they were playing some better point guard defense. But John Wall's at home. It's against Kyrie Irving, and although recently they've been playing a little bit better, I'm not scared at all. If there's a point guard I'm paying up for tonight, John Wall is pretty much my top target at point guard. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, I'm on board with it. I don't think he's light years better than Steph Curry at 10K tonight. Obviously, got to pay $900 more for him. If I had a choice, if salary didn't matter, I would take Curry over Wall tonight. But it does matter. So maybe when you consider price per point, Wall gets a slight advantage there. But I'm fine with him. Like you said, Kyrie Irving does not play particularly great defense, and it's a big game. I think a lot of eyeballs will be on it. I think both teams are going to want to come to play. Obviously Cleveland really picked up the pace here right before the All-Star break. So, yeah, Wall's a fine play.
Are you interested in anyone else in this entire game? It's just those two guys, maybe a Nene, but the minutes are always scary for me with him. I can't really get behind Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love. It's Wall and LeBron. I want the 2 stars and no one else in this game.
Yeah, on another day, I would say Gortat is underpriced, but no reason to pay that number for him when you can get Rudy Gobert for $300 more.
Yep. Houston at Dallas is the next game here. If you would have told me, I might want to make a bet. Maybe I'll throw out a Twitter bet here, see if someone would take it here. But Dallas is a 2-point favorite at home tonight against Houston. After just looking horrific last night with Rondo back in the lineup, just killing their offense. What's your take here on this Dallas offense? Do you want to use any of them, Dan? Can you use a guy like Ellis tonight? Can you use Tyson Chandler? Or I'm avoiding this entire offense right now with Rondo. He's killing it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think Tyson Chandler is a bit intriguing just because who he's going to be rebounding against. They still don't have Dwight Howard there for Houston, so I could see them being a little bit exposed rebounding-wise, and him obviously having a pretty good showing there. So we've seen him have some crazy good games kind of out of the blue. So he's the one guy I think I'd take a shot on in a tournament at 6,500 at center. But I'm with you. I mean, yeah, Monte looked good that last game against Houston, so there's some reason to consider him in tournaments. But for me, with Bledsoe and Harden and Dwayne Wade, I like Wade better than Ellis tonight.
Yeah, and you've been a big Rondo supporter earlier in the season. You got to be completely off that train right now. There's no way you can use Rondo right now. If he was 4,000, would you even use Rondo tonight?
Yeah, if he was 4K, I'd probably use him. I just didn't like the fit to begin with. I even let it be known. I didn't think it was a smart deal at the time, and it hasn't really worked out for either side yet. I'm not saying it's not going to, but boy, it seems like Dallas plays better when he's not around, and he just is not. I mean, he can turn it on out of the blue, but this isn't the spot for me. I mean, I don't have any Rondo, and if anybody, few people love Rondo more than me, but no Rondo.
On Houston, it's three guys. It's three guys only. It's James Harden. It's Trevor Ariza. And it's Josh Smith. Love some Josh Smith tonight. He's just going crazy, contributing in every category. No Modi for me. Josh Smith is kind of taking over as the power forward I want in Houston. But you have to love all three of those plays tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. Smith 65, really solid number there. When you consider the guys kind of around him, Fareed, Markieff Morris, Dirk, he clearly stands out. I think he'll be a much more popular play for certain here. But yeah, no problem with any of those guys.
Yeah, I'd take him over Dirk, Fareed. When he was 50, 800, 6,100, he was approaching 40 to 50% owned. I still think even at 6,500, with how weak power forward is outside of the top guys, he's going to be very highly owned tonight. So I do love me some Josh Smith. Love Harden. Would you rather have Trevor Ariza tonight? Let's say you're in a cash game here. He's 5,600. Or you got, let me find someone here. Wilson Chandler, 5,900, a little bit more.
Yeah, I would probably take Chandler, but it's close. I think they're really, really close tonight. I actually really like Mbah Moute
for cheaper. I was going to throw him out at you too.
Yeah, I don't mind him for cheaper. Ariza's okay. I mean, I kind of hit gold on him that week before the All-Star break. Was touting him a lot, and he definitely panned out. He's basically goes with how his shot's going. If it's falling, he can put up some 30s. If it's not, you're going to get the low 20s for him. So it's just a matter of whether it's falling for him tonight. And sometimes coming off the All-Star break, not a good thing. He was hot before. Is he going to be hot after? I'm okay with Ariza, but tempering my expectations a little.
All right, so normally we'd be ending the show here, and the producer would be getting ready for the next show. We still got 10 more minutes, Dan. We got a lot of games, so we're going to speed it up here. Denver at Milwaukee is our next game here. So Bayless, I believe he's going to be starting tonight at point guard for Milwaukee. I believe I saw something that's confirmed that. Not sure, though, so just double-check on that. If he's in there with all these other cheap point guards, you got Frazier, you're going to have McCollum, and you're going to have Dinwiddie, who's a shooting guard on FanDuel. Give me Bayless over all these guys, and I'll take him and his 25 to 30 fantasy points I can get out of him instead of the 15 to 20 I think I can get out of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bayless is your best player out of all those guys. The question is, do you put two of them together and load up elsewhere? I think that's the big question tonight. And I'm okay with doing that on some teams. Your cash game lineup might be a tad bit risky to do that, but Bayless, for me, he's number one on that list. I mean, he stands out far and above the other players that you mentioned. He's proven as a starter that he can be a big-time fantasy contributor. And big enough time for at a $4,100 salary to make value a couple times over. So it came out that he's starting. They don't really. I think somebody mentioned they cut Gutierrez. So I think it really looks like a tremendous spot for him tonight. They just don't have basically anybody else. I mean, Tyler Ennis I don't think is going to be playing tonight. So let's load up on Jared Bayless. He could play 35 plus minutes.
If you're looking to avoid Bledsoe or Harden and switching it up a little bit tonight, you got to love Antetokounmpo tonight, 6,700 on FanDuel. His game log has been great. Some of those rebounds are going to go away, so don't expect those 15 and 12 rebounds he was getting before when he was playing center a lot. But I still like him to kind of have a very nice, well-rounded night tonight, 30 fantasy points. especially with Brandon Knight out of there. I love me some Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, watching Antetokounmpo play some point guard today. Like, he could. He's a freak. I mean, he's a Greek freak. I mean, he's somebody that I'm very high on tonight. I think he makes a great contrarian play. And when you consider, I think John Henson was a little bit banged up as well. I have to check on his status if he's going to play or not. He didn't practice or participate in the contact portion of Thursday's practice. So if he would be out, I think that just enhances his play a little bit. Kenyon Martin was cut already, so he could play easily some 4. Maybe he could play some point guard to give Bayless some rest. So
playing 1 through 5 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he could. He absolutely could. So Antetokounmpo, he's, again, very foul trouble driven, his production, but he's been, avoiding fouls here over the last couple of weeks. So I think that seems to be a thing in the past, and they're low on men, so he's going to play a lot because he can play a lot of different positions. So I think he's a great play tonight.
Under the radar point guard play tonight, Ty Lawson. So Brandon Knight was very good on defense. It's the exact opposite for Bayless. Not a very good defender at all. On the road here, very contrarian tournament play tonight. Ty Lawson, can you get behind that, Dan?
Tournament play, yeah. I mean, he had a monster day against the Lakers before and was okay before then. I'm okay with it. Like, I don't hate it, but I still think, some of it's obviously Brandon Knight being a good defender, but maybe, some of it's Milwaukee just being better defensively against point guards as a team. So I'm not going to kind of go all in. Again, Brian Shaw has pretty much lost that team still. What's the Vegas total line on this game, by the way?
We got a 198.
And what's the favorite?
7 points for the Bucks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with Lawson, but more of a tournament play for me. If I was playing 10 teams, I might have one of my 20 point guard spots be Lawson.
If you had to pick between Gallinari or Chandler, take price into consideration tonight, who would you target out of those two guys? Gallinari, I believe he's going to be in the starting lineup tonight.
Oh, man. It's got to be Gallinari at 3,600. I mean, he's very, driven by his offensive skills, his shots, whether they're falling or not. But you look back at the logs a little bit, 30 minutes had 22 fantasy points. 26 minutes had 27. 24 minutes had 21. So the guy has kind of been, fantasy point, not quite a fantasy point a minute, but in that range. And even that last game versus the Lakers, he wasn't overly involved, only played 21 minutes. But at 3,600, he's another small forward punt. I mean, there's a ton of guys you can go with that small forward, and he's moving into that starting lineup. You got to consider him.
So Al says I look like Gallinari's FanDuel picture. I don't really see too much of the resemblance there outside of the hair, Al. So not sure I quite agree with you there. Where's he from? He's like Eastern European, and I'm homegrown American over here. Do you see that? Bring that up, Dan. Do you see the resemblance?
I'm looking at it right now. If he was smiling, I think that would help the cause a little bit. Because you're always smiling, so we don't get the stern Brit Devine look all that often.
All right, I'll give it to you real quick. All right, so we've got 5 minutes and a whole bunch of games left. So let's do some rapid fire here. Portland at Utah. So I got Gordon Hayward, but he's going to get some Batum. He's going to get a little Wesley Matthews defense. Not sure I really like Gordon Hayward. Do you like him real quick?
Not really, because I think that there's value to be had at small forward tonight. And I think I actually like Rudy Gay a little bit better than him today. So if I'm going to go in that range for cheaper, I'll go Rudy Gay.
So you got Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert tonight. Favors makes a very nice, an interesting play. Not too many people use him all the time. With Cantor gone, I like him. And Gobert, we've mentioned him a bunch of times. He's just an insane value tonight.
Yeah, Gobert's a plug and play for you this evening, and on Portland's side of things, Aldridge is always safe. Lillard should be fine tonight, just because they don't have a lot of depth. Same with Wes Matthews at shooting guard. So your typical story there with Portland. Nothing has really changed with this team whatsoever in terms of production of those players. So fine spot, but Utah does play slower games. They're one of the slowest teams in the NBA, so that probably knocks those Portland guys down just a little bit.
Boston at Sacramento. So Ray McCollum, he's going to be your starting point guard tonight for the Kings. What do you know about him? Is he a good play? Would you rather play him or Tim Frazier tonight if you had to pick one of them?
I would say Tim Frazier over McCollum for me. I think that you're going to see Rudy Gay and you're going to see DeMarcus Cousins have really big games, especially Cousins. Cousins against this Boston interior. I mean, this could be a bloodbath, ladies and gentlemen. I mean,
call the police, call 911. He's going to murder this interior.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, he's going to get Tyler Zeller in foul trouble, and then they're going to have nobody. I mean, literally nobody. And Brandon Bass is going to play like 40 minutes because they have literally nobody. I mean, it's Shavlik Randolph going to get playing time today? I mean, he was playing on like the Barstool Sports team a month ago, and they're like whatever tournament that they were in. You know, it's just it's crazy. So I mean, the interior should eat tonight, and Cousins and Gay I think are both just fine plays. Bass is somebody you got to look at if you want value at power forward. He's one of the longest kind of.
I'm going to ask you, Bass or Jason Smith for $500 more on FanDuel?
I think it's Bass. I don't trust Jason. I mean, Jason Smith has proven to be able to do it, but man, he's just like so slow and unathletic. I mean, I'll take Bass over him. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, Jason Smith is a fine guy, but I mean, is Whiteside going to guard him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be no rebounds for Jason Smith, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it. So, yeah, for me, Bass for sure.
Man, that's tough for me. Bass just has disappointed us so much, but you make a good point. He's going to play 35 or 40 minutes tonight. So
he has to. Like, I don't want to play him. I don't like him. He's just kind of like there. I mean, sometimes he gets hot with the jump shot. He's kind of smallish. Anyway, he's undersized. But they don't have anybody else. So it's just, you know, Sullinger's hurt, so he's got to play. No Kelly Olynyk either, so it's not like they could go him and Zeller together. So he's got to play 35, 40 minutes tonight.
Spurs at Warriors. Real quick, Steph Curry, play him. Play Draymond Green, I like him. Klay Thompson. I just really don't see a need to use Klay Thompson tonight, Dan.
Yeah, I'm off of Klay Thompson tonight. No interest there.
On the Spurs side, so there's always a risk of getting popped, but I think that's pretty much out the window the rest of the way with the Spurs needing to win games, even though it's on a back-to-back. Tony Parker had a huge game last night. So did Tim Duncan. Kawhi Leonard just can't get his shot falling right now. What's your take on the Spurs on the road here?
Yeah, I think it's Parker. And you know, he's the one guy I would consider, but on a 14-day game slate or whatever it is tonight, I'm just off of San Antonio altogether.
Our final game is Brooklyn at the Lakers. News of Jarrett Jack, he's out. So would you rather roster Deron Williams at 5,300 or a guy like George Hill at 5,500? Tony Parker, we just talked about him at 5,400.
I think it's Deron Williams. I think it is. You take Jack out of the equation, and he's going to be playing a pile of minutes tonight. I mean, they don't really have anybody but Darius Morris left. And, I mean, the Lakers just gave up 63 fantasy points to Ty Lawson. Now, Deron Williams isn't Ty Lawson, but Deron Williams still can play. He can still distribute the ball, get the ball into the Big's hands, and knock down a jump shot here and there. So, against the worst team against point guards, you're crazy if you don't consider a starting point guard with really no backup right now. So Deron Williams for me out of those guys.
Brook Lopez, Mason Plumlee, I think are also going to be two guys very low owned tonight. Lopez has shown huge upside. With Kevin Garnett gone, he's going to be in the starting lineup. Plumlee quietly putting together some big games too recently. What's your take on those two?
Lopez over Plumlee for me, 600 more. Take KG out of the equation. In those games where he started with no Kevin Garnett, he did pretty damn well. So I think he can do it again here against the Lakers. Nobody on the Lakers, not even Jordan Clarkson tonight. Nobody on the Lakers.
Jordan Hill's back too, so that clogs up the front court. So I'm off, just like you, all the Lakers. That's going to do it for us, Dan. We've got Gaby and Hoop at 5:30. Or no, 4:30. Dean and Al at 5:30. You got double duty. You're back on XM today. Is anyone on with you?
Me and Beer tonight.
You and Beer on XM. And then we have STL and Varnicus at 8 o'clock. So what's that, like 5,000 hours of Roto Grinders coverage today?
That's a lot. It's good to be back, though, in NBA. So.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. And as always, we outcha.